everybody, it's Scott Bunce again, and today I have Bill Kaiser, and I'm really excited about having Bill because Bill just did a presentation to my Vistage group all about culture, and it was kind of a fascinating presentation. It got everybody engaged and gave us a lot to think about. Bill, thank you for joining me today and being part of this video recording.
Thank you, Scott. Always good to spend time with you and talk about one of our favorite topics together. So appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, it's my pleasure. You know, one of the things I liked about it, Bill, is you gave as kind of a takeaway to my group a couple of hard things that people could walk away from. And the two things that I took away from the group is you gave us kind of a work book to work through. You took us through this life cycle, and I would love for you to maybe walk through that life cycle here over our session, as well as a hard example of some of the things that people could build off of this presentation along the way. So with that, Bill, can you just dive in and again, maybe talk about the culture information that you shared and what that looks like, and why is it so important from a leader of an organization to peel the onion back and dive into? So with that, feel free to dive in wherever you would like.
Great. So for the next 2.5 hours, I'd like to, no, just kidding. A couple things, Scott. If we take a high level 30,000-foot view in terms of what we do and what I said to your team and the leaders that you work with, I think most leaders today understand the importance of culture. They all give it a 4 or 5, 5 being it's critical to the success of my company. They rate culture very highly. So the talk and the presentation and what we discuss is not about helping convince them the importance of culture. Those same leaders that give it 4s and 5s don't have plans as to how to leverage, to better define and drive culture in their organization. So there's a void, there's a gap between it's real important, I just don't know what to do about it. And I think that's where that 8-step framework, the diagram that you were holding up, we offer a plan to be more intentional with our culture plans in our organizations, just like we have an operations plan, a sales and marketing plan, a finance plan, an R&D plan. The foundation of our thinking at CultureWise is we as leaders have to be as intentional and regimented about our culture plan as we are with those other important initiatives. And that's what that 8-step framework is. And you talked about the key takeaways. So if I think about a leader, you know, we help leaders drive a higher level of results in their organization. Check, every leader wants that. Our methodology is to leverage culture to do that. So we have to help leaders define way more clearly than most do the behaviors that drive success in their organization. For leaders to define what they expect out of each and every one of us. Because then once we've defined that, and a subset to that is develop content to make it easy to coach this up in our organizations. We then have to set up a system to practice these behaviors over and over and over again. And I think, you know, when I talk to your group and out of those 8 steps, I say, gang, you're going to leave here today. I'm hammering 2 of those that deserve your walk-away attention. And those 2 steps in defining a better plan for your culture, one is to clearly define the actions or the behaviors that you expect out of your people and the content that helps them understand how to get from point A to point B, a coaching curriculum, if you will. And 2, we've got to ritualize the practice of those behaviors because you can hope your way to being better. But no, we all know that leaders have to teach. And we have to, if our organization is going to be better tomorrow than it is today, then we're going to do that on the backs of our people. And it's up to us to make sure our people are better tomorrow than they are today. So is that enough detail, or you want me to keep going in terms of those 8 steps? I think that's the gist of what we're helping leaders do.
Yeah, I guess I want to make a couple of comments.
Sure.
First, my comment is I think any leader would naturally go, hey, culture is important for me. And in fact, I love the phrase, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? It's so true, right? If the team is not firing on all cylinders, doesn't matter how much you're pouring into the business, you're not going to be reaching your full potential. But I think the average CEO or leader of a department is going to go, I don't know if I've got a time to create a plan, or is a plan going to be too complicated for me to pull off? And how do I make it practical? So maybe you can take a few minutes and talk about how do you make a plan that it doesn't take weeks
Yeah.
and that it's more simple to put together and more practical for me to pull off. Can you talk about that?
Sure. And I think that's critical. I think the a bias that leaders have is they anticipate, and too many times we as leaders associate complexity with really moving the needle in our organizations. And I'm a believer, perhaps to a fault, that not everything has to be complex. And I think what I love sometimes is a solution that's simple. May not be easy, but it's simple to comprehend. There's a time frame that allows you to not turn your organization upside down and have an 8-month, 1,200 committees to get the job done. So when it comes to your culture plan, we tell people that, go into the process, expect to give, it's going to be from start to finish, whatever our process is, 30 to 60 days. And we're up and running, practicing, some of the stuff I've talked about. And I think that as we talk about the voids in why do leaders make it so complex? Because a lot of this isn't lean thinking. This isn't Six Sigma. It's simply we as leaders need to be crystal clear on what we expect out of our team. That there's not a heavy lifting there. We'll help someone define that. And then we set up simple processes that allow this stuff to happen, like drip marketing. I just passed a billboard. I just got an email. You teach people the importance of these behaviors day in and day out with not a lot of heavy lifting. You can do that via software, via Teams, via Slack. Our clients used to have a software suite that this stuff is happening automatically. And I think that what Patrick Lencioni, you mentioned, strategy. I think that's Covey, I believe. Patrick Lencioni talks about, culture or organizational health. It trumps everything else you're working on. And it's not a complex fix. It's not a complex initiative. So get that out of your head, leaders. This is a simple way to drive results in every aspect of your business, from finance to ops to sales and marketing, you name it. So that 8-step framework is you define your culture. You do a better job of finding people that fit your culture. When an employee comes on board, when you onboard, you lead with culture, not just logistics and context of their work. You communicate your culture left and right. And you heard me say this to your team, when does onboarding start? And everyone says, day one, or the hiring interview process. I said, great, let's go one step back. The onboarding process right now begins with you advertising what a wonderful place it is to work here, and get that on your websites, right? I go to your website to either buy your product, I go to your website to either come work for you, or competition will sneak some peeks, and I'm not worried about competition. So give me a compelling reason, and your culture is why people come to you and stay with you. So we want to communicate our culture. And then we need to coach and lead and hold people accountable. You can't coach unless you're crystal clear on what's expected. We've already done that. We provide a platform to be better coaches. Our leaders have to be behind this, or forget it. If you're not behind a culture initiative or a plan for culture, it's going to fail quickly. And then we just got to simply hold people accountable to living and breathing the way we've determined is the way that we succeed here. So there is a simplicity to the methodology, and I embrace that because I love simple stuff, and it
Yeah.
moves the needle. So
One of the things I liked is it turned out one of my members of my group had already had an engagement with your group. And I showed this earlier where we've got the culture way and the things that we were trying to achieve with this thing that lives and breathes. Yeah, there we go. And it was interesting that somebody was living and breathing it already.
yeah.
Maybe take a moment and share how it is when you run into something like this.
I think it may help, Scott. I'd love to say we invented the concept. The Ritz-Carlton, everyone's familiar with the Ritz-Carlton. We got the idea from the Ritz. The Ritz shared with us back in 2003, as we were a dynamic, growing insurance firm, the secrets to them avoiding the accidental greatness that many companies suffer from. Ritz-Carlton is perennially great. and it's how they structure and build their culture. They are one crystal clear as to what's expected out of everybody. They have 20 basics that they train their entire 40,000 employees across the world. And they put those 20 basics on a cute little card. And that's where we got the concept of, here's your recipe. Hand the recipe to every new cook coming into your company. So now we're all singing. I'm going into cliche mode here. We're all singing from the same song sheet. So create the menu of success for your organization and put it on a card. It's documented. You don't falter. You hand it to every new employee or every interviewee, and that controls, in a sense, the bid specs, if you will, and gets everybody singing from the same stage. The second thing that the Ritz-Carlton shared with us, what do they do once everyone has that card? And that gets into the daily, weekly practices to make this stuff come to life and kind of jump off the card. I always say we want to get that artwork turned into actions. We want to get the words off the wall and making sure that tomorrow I'm perhaps acting differently than I would have today had it not been for the reminders that this cute little card carries. It's funny you say that, and I go, all the companies I've worked with in the past, that's the output. The simplicity of the plan is write down the recipe that makes you special at Scott Bunce International. Write it down so that you can hand that to everybody else coming in. It's defined, and now I can teach and coach from that platform.
Bill, going to throw you a curveball.
Please
I'm
do.
sure you've done this session countless times. Can you recall a time where you saw that there was a problem and the light bulb went off with one of your clients and it made a major impact?
I think of one story, and I don't know if I shared this story with you last week. There's a company I work with in the material handling industry, forklift industry, a company that multi-generational, and brothers taking over for the father who had a different type of culture mindset, kind of a hard driver. And this particular leader spoke to arriving at work in a leadership role and grabbing that steering wheel in the morning before going into work and just white knuckling, going, "Oh my gosh, I'm about to head into the hell zone." And he goes like, "Wow, if I'm thinking this as a leader of this company, what are my people thinking?" And he was exposed to the message and the concept of defining your culture with behaviors, what we call fundamentals. And the light bulb went off for him that it was a way for him to change the expectations in his organization. He likes his job more himself now, and it starts with the leader. And he realized that they were missing kind of that curriculum, that platform to describe what we need to do around here and then help people get there, in addition to holding himself more accountable to living and breathing from this foundation. So it was, and there's been numerous stories where it's been eye-opening that it's not that hard for me to change perhaps the wrong course in a company, or most leaders, it's the missing, we're good, but I know we can be better. And we just have to add some structure and a plan to getting it done. I know I need to exercise more. That alone doesn't get me in better shape, but putting together a plan that I stick with does, and we keep them simple. So I think about that, and just to further more detail on that particular leader, he's been and a very reserved gentleman. He's not one to blow a lot of smoke or give, if you get a compliment, you've earned a compliment. But he talks about, since going into this system, if you will, with fundamentals and the culture-wise way, or whatever they call it, I won't name the company, they're the top dealer for a certain manufacturer of forklifts 9 of the last 10 years. They've won numerous best places to work awards, and he never thought that was possible, given the pre-fundamentals approach. So I think that that's an experience a lot of leaders face when they recognize, man, they can do this, move the needle, and just have better people. Because your people aren't the difference. How your people perform is the difference. And we help your people perform better. And that's the edge that I think our clients have, and people that adopt a culture plan, that's the edge they have over all the lookalikes that they compete with.
Right. Well, kind of winding things down, Bill, I want to give you a shout out, right? You did what some other presenters have failed to do. You came right at the beginning of our meeting. You watched issues being processed. You even weighed in a couple of times as we processed issues. Then you took that and you wove it into your presentation. So I'm giving you an endorsement that you were a great hands-on presenter, and I think you would work well in any organization that's trying to work on culture. But how do people get a hold of you if they want to engage with you in your company?
Sure. First of all, thank you. That means a lot, and I don't get that invite often. Usually we show up, we do our talk, and then you get into all the good stuff after the speaker leaves. It's invaluable to sit there and be part, and it's a shout out to you as a leader and your people willing to share that stuff and knowing that I'm going to keep it to myself. So thank you for that opportunity. If people want to get in touch with me, it's real easy. bill@culturewise.com. Email is the best. If there's an email exchange, my cell phone is always included in my signature line. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of and would love to, again, no pressure. This is not I'm an older guy. I would love to talk about this topic and would be more than happy to help someone, nudge them along the way or give them more detail if they're interested. So thanks for that opportunity as well.
You're welcome. Well, Bill, thanks again. Going to wish you all the best. And yeah, I think you've got a great product and you personally deliver it well.
Thanks, Scott. Hopefully, I look forward to our paths crossing again in real life. Appreciate it.
Bet.